Hi, I'm Alan Ross, and we are at Distributech 2025. We've got interviews with thought leaders, and we'd love for you to see what we've done here. Hey, thanks for joining us. So my next guest is an old guest, an old friend. Zlatan, good to be with you again. We got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
We're at the end of Distributech 2025. Parting is, what is that? Parting is such sweet sorrows. Something like that. But we'll see each other again.
Absolutely.
First of all, I don't want to talk so much about Camlin. We'll get to that. But how did I never asked you this. How did you get into this industry, and why are you in?
Right. Well, it's an interesting question. So I grew up in a small town, in a small country in the Balkans called Bosnia and Herzegovina, and immigrated in the early 90s due to the war conflict over there. So once I moved to the States, I came as a high school student. And then when I went to college, I actually started working part-time in this engineering company that was working on DFRs.
Yeah.
And they were breaking into, at that time, which was 25 years ago, into data concentrators, communication, and communicating with relays. And I was really excited about that concept, and spent my college days working at this company that was really exciting for me. And then years later, I continued working for that company, be acquired by the bigger company, and really just kind of by accident in this industry. And have had, various different technical and commercial roles over the 25 years. And basically, I've been attending this event for about 20 years. So,
okay. It's changed, hasn't it?
It has changed. You can definitely see there's a change, certainly, of how industry is changing. And then you can see companies that you haven't seen 15 years ago here, more on a telecom, on data, and, et cetera. So,
yeah. So, one of the things that, and you mentioned the word change, one of the things that I think is changing, so I'm going to ask you to validate, okay? So either say, no, Alan, that's not right. We've talked to a lot of companies here, and we've talked to a lot of utilities at a previous conference called TechCon that we went to. And if I were to say this, is there was a pendulum swing. Back in the day when I first went into engineering, you could talk to the customer, and it wasn't in this space. It was basically in telecom space. You could talk to the people who had problems because everybody was going through problems.
Right.
And you talk to the engineers, you talk to the senior level technical people, and they would say, here's where our problem is, here's what we're doing. And you'd help solutions. And then you'd give them, here's what the solution is. And they'd go and try to negotiate the price down and we'd get it. But here's what happened. Everything swung up to the procurement people.
Right.
And then it was simply, this is what I want.
Right.
You can't talk to the engineer.
Right.
Even if what you want is wrong.
Right.
I can't tell you it's wrong. It's just, no, that's what we're going to do because somebody put this bid together. And it just went to a procurement thing. We lost touch with in the last 5 years in the utility industry. It has switched like this. We're back to saying, come and talk to us about our problems because we're moving so fast. We have so many things that we need to do. Load growth is there. The variability of the load is there.
Absolutely.
It's just, everything is happening so fast that I need you to now tell me, here's what my problem is. Here's what outcome I need.
Right.
Help me get there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing that I think it's more than 5 years, at least from my experience. I think we are moving, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was more transactional. Is this right? There's a procurement bid. There's a set of requirements. You either meet it or not, and you are not really able to understand the problem before you basically relying on the requirements to be able to respond. I think as we are facing new challenges, as we are implementing new technologies, the problems are bigger, the challenges are different, and really for us to have a solution together, you have to build this intimacy and you have to build this partnership with the various companies. So the vendors are there to innovate and create, but you have to have the relationship with the end user to be able to really understand what their outcomes are and how do we get there, right? And that may require services, may require software, may require hardware, but the end result has to be to meet those requirements. And I think that's really, building that type of relationship where you go deeper into the problem allows us vendors to be able to provide a better, more efficient, and ultimately more beneficial solution to the users, right?
So there's another word that goes with that, which is the point and you're saying it happened maybe even earlier it started happening. There were companies that allowed that. But as an industry, it's very insular. The utility industry is like, I don't share with anybody. Very me too.
Right.
Show me that somebody else has done it and I'll come on board. Now it's like, come on in. And there's a lot of them saying that. The other one is there's more collaboration within the utility and with vendors and vendor to vendor. There's more collaboration saying this is what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And we can accomplish this together, but it's allowing people to work together. So collaboration is the word.
A collaboration is, it's a key word. I think, agree with you. I think there is, as I said, like the challenges are so big that one company alone may not be able to address all these things. So having a vendor to vendor collaboration and us mastering in our own area help us then go back to the end user and be able to address these complexities.
Oh, now you set yourself up.
Well,
now here's your next question. The problems are so big that you can't. What are the problems? What are they facing?
Well, I would almost kind of split it into two different things, right? There's this operational challenges that we are all aware of, like starting from supply chain, starting from, aging resources, lack of SMEs, right? The load increase, the demand for load is huge. Then we think about like data centers are a really important part of our new world, right? Yeah. And the demand for power is enormous, right? Yet everything is being built on a grid that was developed 100 years ago, right? So how do you make this work, right? When we talk about, I'm in a, transformer monitoring business. So from our perspective, how do we ensure that these transformers are operating properly? We have numerous examples, even the last week, of things going wrong with the transformer. So how do we ensure that they're operating properly and they're not having major issues, right? So
when you say even, you're talking about Heathrow fire?
Absolutely.
Yes, everybody talked about.
I mean, this is this is what we talk about to potential customers. These are things that could happen, right? So how do we ensure we don't get there, right? So being able to have the data that guides us, right? And help us make decisions, whether we need to replace an asset or maintain it better or whatever else, to just ensure that when it operates safely and reliably. That's really what the outcome is when we talk about outcomes with utility.
Yeah, and you said the word reliability because I'm a reliability engineer. Okay, reliability is keeping everything working. So when a transformer, and there's a certain thing that we do. We take. You want to find out about the impact of problem. You say, what is the likelihood of the problem? And transformer fires, the likelihood is very, very low. Transformers fail at about 1% a year, but they don't fail catastrophically, right? And they're failing more rapidly. We might be at 2%, 3%. So now they are failing more. That's the likelihood. And people say, yeah, but the likelihood of failure is so low. The severity of failure, and what I've actually had a company say, but the severity of failure is measured by buying a new transformer, installing. I said, no, it's the fact that you lost production in that line for almost 3 days.
So we deal with that all the time. We refer to it as a probability of failure versus consequence of failure. Right?
Exactly. So
the consequence of failure at Heathrow Airport versus a consequence of failure of a transformer in a smaller neighborhood is different, right? Yeah. So, when you think about it, the consequence of failure at Heathrow is not the cost of the transformer, right? It's the cost of airport being shut down.
That's exactly right.
Which I heard it's millions of dollars, right? So, again, but for us to make all these decisions, we have to rely on a real-time data, right? We can't rely on the data that's collected on a yearly basis or every few years. For us to be actively managing our asset, ensuring nothing like that happens, we need to have, ingestion of data that will help us make those decisions, right? And that's really where it comes down to.
Reliability. If I get one piece of data a year, I can't do anything with it. It's a dot. Absolutely. If I get 2 pieces, it's a straight line, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How many dots do I need to have to extrapolate into the future? And that's where we are today. You got to get, and that's where we go from time-based inspection. We got to go to condition monitoring. In fact, we now need to go to even beyond condition monitoring. We need to go condition reliability. Right. We need to go condition resilience. How are you going to bring it back up if it goes down?
Right.
And
I mean, I think we talk about, there's, in the industry, and certainly this week, there's a whole discussion about machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is fantastic. And we as an industry should adopt some of these things. Now, I think the debate is at how, when, and I think that's a really good debate. But again, none of this stuff is available unless we have reliable data. And if we have sensors that feed that data, so we can then see how we apply. I'm going to believe that we should apply, we should be educated about all the technologies out there, but apply it where it fits.
Right.
Not just because, oh yeah, there's something new out there, so let's just see. I think we need to apply it in a way that helps the outcomes that our users are really trying to, achieve. Right. And I think that's really where we as a company try to see how we fit in there, how to actually.
Right. One of the things, no matter what the question is, you know what the answer is? AI. Well, that's not true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So.
Switching gears now, talk about Camlin, because I love the company.
Yeah.
I know Camlin, you guys are great at what you do. Yeah. And we tend to work with pedigree companies.
No.
They have a long history. They've done something. They're doing well. Pedigree companies that are building the next level. And that's what happened here.
Yeah. I mean, I've been with Camlin for about 8 years now here in US. The company has been around for about 30 years, So we are based out of the UK and have done some really fantastic work on the distribution networks in the UK, building sensors, software, and services. We keep kind of relying on that as those three components to ensure that the customer, I keep getting back to the outcomes of to make sure that the customers are getting the right outcomes. What is really key, and we talked about earlier as well, is that our relationship with some of our customers go back 10, 15, 20 years. And the reason why is that we build these strong partnerships to understand what the problems are and then develop products, develop solutions to be able to meet those challenges. Now, because one or two utilities actually have those problems, the chances are the others have.
Exactly.
Because we design it that way, we are very successful then deploying our sensors across other markets and other utilities. So in the US, again, we are really focused on asset monitoring. We have a wide range of sensors that we have deployed. We continue to innovate and look for ideas for new sensors, as we think that's important part to do everything else that we want to do.
Yeah.
And then to address some of these challenges that we talked about earlier, lack of resources, lack of, the SMEs, right? Supply chain issues. We've built software that's very unique in a way that provides that automatic feedback and allows to provide some decision supporting for SMEs to be able to make decisions about the assets. So really combining the expertise of our services team, the sensors, and our unique software kind of helps the customers and address some of their...
Because the SMEs are retired and are retiring.
Yeah.
The new people coming in, there's fewer of them, so they're being asked to do more.
Yeah.
And they might not be as familiar with the historical parts of what we're talking
Absolutely.
about.
I think that's a challenge maybe it's a national challenge. I think we are not...
It's a global challenge.
Yeah. We are not creating enough engineers, right, to be able to support some of these major challenges. So what we then need to rely on is that companies like us we do monitoring of assets. That's what we live and breathe every day. Our focus on it is every day. So relying on that type of expertise then allows utilities to focus what they do best. That's keeping the lights on, right? And then the vendors help support that through management of their assets.
Make a case for retrofitting monitors on existing transformers. Hey, it's been running for 25, 30 years. Why would I put a monitor on that? We're going to replace it in 5 years or 10 years.
Right.
Make a case for...
So I think, so there's there's two discussions here, new transformers, right? Putting the monitors on new transformers helps you manage the transformer from day one.
Right.
So when that young engineer comes in, they can use the tools to be able to analyze how the transformer makes from day one. With all the transformers is that with a lack of data, while it's been working fine for 40 years, is it going to work fine for another year or 2 or 5, right? If you try to replace the transformers, if you as a utility has 1,000 transformers, and you can only get 5 this year because of the issue of the supply chain, well, which 5 do you replace?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So having a sensor there to guide you, just because transformer is older, doesn't mean that one is ranked first. We talked about consequence of failure, probability of failure. So what sensor does is takes that information and provides you a real-time analysis of it and ranks them for you to be able to then, make a decision which older transformer you need to monitor.
And from an asset management standpoint, the asset managers love that.
Absolutely.
Because they're being asked to replace everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And especially I was driving the other day and I just looked up, and to your point, I just saw these huge transmission lines and distribution lines and poles and all of the stuff going. And I said, that is my grandfather's grid, right? We have to do something different, and it has to happen pretty rapidly.
Yeah. And if you imagine now, 50 years ago, what the demand is compared to now, it's the same substation, right? It really becomes we almost feel like that, we are lucky that things are going well right now. Yeah. And so we really, as an industry, there's really a big challenge, right? And I think as we look forward, right, there's a lot of these things that we will have to think about how to address these things and ensure that the grid is operating successfully, right?
Zlatan, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it when we get together, right? All I got to do is throw out one thing and
I'm ready to go.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.